Today's open debate comes in the backdrop of the Gaza Peace Summit at Sharm el-Sheikh on 13th October 2025. India participated in the summit and we welcome the signing of the landmark peace agreement. It is India's hope that the positive diplomatic momentum that has been generated would lead to lasting peace in the region. At this juncture, India would also like to place on record its appreciation for the United States and especially President Donald Trump for playing an instrumental role in forging the agreement. Further, India also commends the role of Egypt and Qatar towards achieving this end. India remains firm in the view that dialogue and diplomacy and the two-state solution are the means to achieve peace. The landmark initiative of the US has generated diplomatic momentum towards peace, and all parties must adhere to their obligations in this regard. We also remain firmly opposed to any unilateral moves by parties concerned. Now is the time for all parties to support ongoing peace efforts rather than to derail them. India's position is firmly rooted in its consistent stance on the developments in 7th October 2023, as well as the overall Palestinian question. India has clearly condemned terrorism, stressed that there must be an end to destruction, despair, and suffering of civilians, and sought the immediate release of all hostages. It held that humanitarian assistance, particularly food, fuel, and other necessities, must flow into Gaza in an unimpeded manner and emphasize the need for a ceasefire. India envisions the peace agreement as an enabler and a catalyst in this regard. The short-term gains of the recent diplomatic outcomes must pave the way for medium to long-term political commitments and practical action on the ground towards the realization of a two-state solution. As India underscores its unwavering support to the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination, national independence, and sovereignty, the high-level conference on the implementation of the two-state solution in the UN on 22nd September 2025 underlined the way forward. The two-state solution is the only pragmatic path. Since India's recognition of the state of Palestine in 1988, India has consistently advocated certain critical parameters. A sovereign, independent, viable state of Palestine, living side by side in peace and security with Israel within secure and recognized borders. Another central element is economic prospects and viability of a Palestinian state. Aid is essential in the short term for rehabilitation and reconstruction. Palestinian people cannot rebuild their lives without the support of the international community. India has been active on this front. The total support by India to the Palestinian people is to the tune of over $170 million, which includes projects worth $40 million in various stages of implementation. Our commitment manifests in various forms depending upon the needs and priorities of the Palestinian people. We have implemented human-centric projects bilaterally and also partnered with the United Nations and the Palestinian Authority in this regard. Over the last 2 years alone, India has provided relief assistance of nearly 135 metric tons of medicines and supplies. Looking ahead, these initiatives must be coupled with the creation of economic frameworks and mechanisms that are conducive for social development, investment, and employment. Madam President, peace and calm on the Palestinian front have implications for the wider region. India stands for lasting peace in the entire Middle East. Therefore, it is important for the agreement to hold and the ceasefire to sustain, and for the parties to honor their respective commitments. Talks must continue and there must be abiding faith in the efficacy of dialogue and diplomacy. On ongoing developments in Syria, humanitarian challenges are an important dimension, and it is important to address these on priority. India's commitment in this regard is also manifested in its supply of 5 metric tons of essential medicines to the friendly people of Syria as recently as July this year. Politically, India continues to stress a Syrian-led and Syrian-owned political process. While taking positive note of progressive normalization of Syria's relations with its Arab neighbors, India also pledges its support to the regional efforts towards finding a long-term solution in Syria. Indian troops in Andof remain steadfast in executing their mandate even during extreme challenges experienced during the recent conflict, including the supreme sacrifice by Acting Force Commander Brigadier General Amitabh Jha in December 2024. India is the third largest contributor to this mission. As the second largest contributor to UNIFIL, India reiterates the importance of the safety and security of peacekeepers of this mission. At a broader level, peacekeepers serve a very critical function of the UN, and they cannot become casualties of conflicts and escalations. India remains hopeful that the Lebanese armed forces would be equipped to discharge the entire spectrum of its responsibilities once the UNIFIL sunset clause becomes operational towards the end of 2026. The humanitarian situation in Yemen is an area of concern. Humanitarian assistance must be above politics. It must reach all civilians, irrespective of affiliations and power structures. Immediate cessation of hostilities would catalyze these efforts. Safety and security of Indian nationals in Yemen are a priority for us. Madam President, it's India's earnest desire to realize the vision of a stable and peaceful Middle East. Our views are guided by certain basic principles. All human beings have the right to lead normal lives. Deprivation and indignity cannot be a part of daily life, and civilians must not die due to conflict. India stands fully ready to contribute to this endeavor. I thank you, Madam President.